The air was brisk that morning, with a faint smell of coffee drifting from the station cafe. Commuters hurried past in their coats, luggage wheels clicking against the tiled floor, eyes fixed on their phones or the departure board. I had taken this train station route 100 times before. It was routine, cold, efficient, and predictable. Until I saw her. She sat against the pillar, legs drawn close, a paper cup clutched between weathered hands. Her hair was hidden under a thin, gray scarf, and her shoulders curved forward like someone who'd been protecting herself from the world for far too long. Most people didn't notice her. Those who did noticed only enough to avoid eye contact. I almost walked past, too. Almost. Because I knew her. Not in the "we met last week" way. Not even in the "we were once friends" way. I knew her because years ago, she had been part of my life in a way that mattered. Her name was Allison. Back in college, she was the kind of person who could fill an empty room with warmth. We met in our sophomore year, two strangers paired up for a group project in American literature. I was the quiet one, buried in books. She was the light, funny, spontaneous, always carrying a sketchbook in which she doodled during lectures. I remember the first time we talked outside class. She had seen me sitting alone under a tree, reading To Kill a Mockingbird. Without asking, she sat beside me, peered over my shoulder, and said, "Atticus Finch, now there's a man the world needs more of." We talked for hours that day. It felt natural, like we'd known each other for years. Over the next 2 years, Allison and I became inseparable. Study sessions turned into coffee runs turned into late-night walks, and late-night walks turned into moments I didn't know how to name. I think I loved her before I even realized it. But we were young, and I never said the words. After graduation, life happened. I landed a job in finance, moved to the city, and got caught in the whirlpool of deadlines and paychecks. Allison pursued her dream of becoming an artist. For a while, we stayed in touch, holiday texts, quick calls. Then the calls slowed. Then stopped. I told myself it was just life moving on. Until one rainy night, about 5 years ago, I saw her again. It was on a crowded street, the kind of evening when everyone was in a hurry to get home. She was standing in the shadows near a bus stop, soaked through, holding a cardboard sign. I stopped. I opened my mouth. But before I could speak, she turned away. Not just turned, she walked away fast, head down, as if she'd seen a ghost. I stood there for a long time that night, watching her disappear into the crowd. I didn't chase her. Maybe I should have. And now, here she was, in front of me again, same eyes, same bone structure, but changed. The Allison I remembered had a spark in her gaze. This Allison's eyes were tired, as if she'd been walking through storms for years. I slowed my pace, my mind racing. She didn't seem to recognize me. Or maybe she did and was pretending not to. I couldn't just pass her by. Not again. I stepped closer. Allison? Her head lifted slowly, and for a moment I saw confusion. Then recognition. Then something else, shame. She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. I saw it in her eyes. "It's been a long time," I said, my voice soft. She hesitated before answering. "Yeah. A long time." I glanced at the cup in her hands. It was empty. She must have noticed me looking because she gave a small, embarrassed smile. Rough week. I didn't want to pry, but questions burned in my mind. How had she ended up here? What happened to her art? Where were the friends she used to have? But I could tell from her hunched posture that this was not the moment for interrogation. Instead, I held out my hand. She blinked at it, clearly unsure. "What are you doing?" "Helping," I said simply. "If you'll let me." Her gaze dropped to the ground. People flowed past us, heels clicking, suitcases rolling, but in that moment, it was like the noise faded, leaving only the space between us. She didn't take my hand right away. In fact, she seemed ready to refuse. And then something shifted. Maybe it was the way I didn't pull my hand back. Maybe it was the fact that I was looking at her the same way I used to, before life wore us down. Slowly, tentatively, she reached up and placed her cold fingers in mine. I helped her to her feet. The first place we went was the cafe inside the station. I ordered her a sandwich and hot coffee. She ate slowly at first, as if her body had forgotten what it was like to be full. I didn't rush her. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. After graduation, things were okay for a while. I was selling paintings, picking up freelance work. But then my dad got sick. Medical bills piled up. I had to sell my apartment to pay for his care. After he passed, I didn't have enough to get another place. A couple of friends let me crash on their couches, but you know how it is, people move on. I couldn't find steady work. I tried shelters, but they were overcrowded. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around the coffee cup. I kept telling myself it was temporary. That I'd bounce back. But days turned into months. Then years. I listened without interrupting. Every word was heavy, and I felt a knot forming in my chest. And that night, she paused, looking at me. When you saw me on the street, I recognized you. I wanted to say something. But I was ashamed. I didn't want you to see me like that. So I walked away. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. You could have told me. I would have helped. I didn't want to be a burden. You were never a burden, Allison. For a long moment, we just sat there, letting the words sink in. That day didn't end with some dramatic rescue. Life isn't a movie, you can't fix years of hardship in a single afternoon. But I could do something. I booked her a room at a small inn nearby for a week. I gave her my number and told her I'd help her find work, something steady. She resisted at first, insisting she didn't want charity. I told her it wasn't charity. It was friendship. Over the next few weeks, I kept my word. I reached out to contacts, found a gallery looking for an assistant, and helped her apply. She got the job. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. She moved into a small studio apartment, and little by little, the Allison I remembered began to reappear. Her laugh came back first. Then the way she'd sketch on napkins when she was lost in thought. One evening, she showed me a painting she'd been working on a train station at sunset, with two figures in the foreground. One was sitting against a pillar. The other was standing, hand extended. That's the day everything changed, she said, smiling softly. I realized then that kindness isn't just about giving money or food. Sometimes, it's about showing someone they're still seen. That they still matter. That even if the world has turned its back, there's at least one person willing to stand beside them. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to help them find their way back.